it's Linnea with a video for Penguin Palace, and today I am using the new Home Sweet Home die from their summer release. This die is a large die set with just 2 large dies, and it will create the front of a little house as well as the roof. And this die is super cool because you're going to see as we create this card, the house door opens up, there's little cutouts for windows, and the roof is actually a 3D roof. So you can see here what I'm talking about that the 3D roof. There are score lines, and I will show you exactly how to fold them to get that pop-up effect. And I am saving every single piece of my die cuts because I'm going to do some ink blending, and I will put them back into place like a puzzle. So to start out with, I have some Peacock Feathers Distress ink and an ink blending tool, and I am just going to ink blend the roof. Now, in hindsight, I wish that I had done my ink blending for the roof before I die cut it, because see those little like wavy lines and the stitching lines? I kept catching them as I was trying to blend. So for my roof, I will definitely, next time I use this die, blend beforehand. For my house, I wanted just a little gray house, so I used Hickory Smoke, and I did mask off the door because I wanted the door to be a corally red color. So I'm using Abandoned Coral and just going in and ink blending the door now. And when I remove this tape, you might be able to catch a glimpse that I must not have overlapped my tape enough, because on the left side of the door, you'll see there I have ink blending marks. But that's no problem. I just went back in and blended on a little bit more Hickory Smoke Distress ink. And then just to finish off this little house and roof, I'm adding some water flicks to my ink. I have some tumbled glass ink here, and like I said, I kept all those little pieces so that I could puzzle piece these back in. You could definitely use a piece of pattern paper or just some ink blending on your background to fill in the design, but I decided to keep the actual die cut pieces. And since they are small, it's hard to ink blend on tiny little pieces. So I stuck them down onto a piece of tape to hold them in place while I add my ink, and this worked out really, really well. So I used tumbled glass as well as fossilized amber there. So here you can see those little score marks that the die leaves. I die cut this from 110-pound heavyweight cardstock. So I knew that these little scoring lines were going to need some help. So I'm just using my bone folder and reinforcing those scoring lines really quickly. I didn't even have to move my die around. Actually, the scoring lines lined up with various scoring lines on my scoreboard. So I just reinforced them, and then I'm going over it with my bone folder. And you can kind of start to see here how that pop-up effect is going to take place. So on the top of the roof and at the bottom of the roof, there are 2 separate score lines. And you want to make sure you score on both of them because that's what's going to give you the pop-up effect. And I'm just going to show you in a little bit here. See how you fold them over, and then you're going to use tape on those little like ledges, and that's what's going to adhere that to your card, and you will see me do that later on in this video. I wanted there to be some color behind the door, so I quickly traced where the door would be on my card, and then I drew a larger line around that because anywhere you add ink, that pencil line is going to get stuck underneath. So I wanted to make sure that I had an ink blended area large enough that you wouldn't be able to see the white of my card base behind my door, but small enough that it wouldn't come all the way down to the bottom. I wanted it completely hidden behind my little house die cut. I added bunches of foam tape behind my house front here. Since the roof is popped up, I wanted the house itself to be popped up, and now the roof is still popped up more, which is totally awesome. So here is where I am adding just adhesive to those little ledges that we scored and folded over. And that is the only part that is going to adhere to the house. And I added score tape, and I'm also going to add some liquid adhesive on top of that, and that is going to give me some freedom to kind of move this little roof piece around and make sure that I get it on straight and where I want it to go. Once I have it on, it's kind of difficult to press because that front of the roof is popped up. So what I actually did was I grabbed my bone folder and just kind of stuck it in and rubbed it around a little bit to make sure that those little flaps were fully adhered to my card front. So once that was all done, I'm using some liquid adhesive, and this is actually iCraft Ultra Bond liquid adhesive from Thermalweb. It's my favorite liquid adhesive because it's going to hold tight to anything. And I'm going to puzzle piece those little die cut windows back into my card front. So I did a light blue for the windows, and then I thought that these little triangle pieces kind of looked like lights above the window. So I just grabbed my little tweezers, and that really helped me out because my fingers are big and they get in the way. I just kind of stuffed that little triangle piece down in there, moved it around with my tweezers until it was in there the way I liked. And check out that little door, so cute the way it opens up. I wanted to have some little characters and critters in my scene, so I'm using a couple of the new stamp sets from the Penguin Palace summer release, and I'm just going to color them up really quickly with some alcohol markers. No fancy coloring here. I encourage you to try whatever kind of coloring medium you're most comfortable with. I usually stick to either watercolor or my alcohol markers, but you could definitely use colored pencils. I'm just not good with colored pencils. So to start out with this little girl, I just colored her with a fair skin tone. I'm giving her a little golden brown hair, and then I'll color the watermelon and her little clothes. The terracotta pot, I actually started out with a base brown, colored it over with red, and then colored back over that with brown. And that gives me that kind of like dark rusty color for my little planter pot. For the kitty, I ended up coloring him a gray color, and then I created the ice cream sundae with a little cherry, some vanilla ice cream, chocolate, strawberry, and just with a little bowl. And Penguin Palace does have die cuts for all of these little images, so I went ahead and used them to cut them out. And then I'm going to use some fun foam foam tape at the back of them just to pop them up a little bit, to give them a dimension so that they would be about the same height as the house front. So the little girl eating the watermelon, she is going to actually go inside of the little door. It pulls open, and so that will be like a little surprise for the recipient of this card. They can open up the door, and there's a little girl there to greet them. I'm going to stick the little house plants in the right window, and the little kitty cat eating an ice cream sundae in the left window. And again, I will just use foam tape at the back for both of those. I grabbed the Rabbit Cafe stamp set from Penguin Palace, which is where that little potted plant came from, and I stamped out the sentiment, "Stay Sweet," and I wanted to do a stacked greeting, so I stamped that on 2 separate little strips of cardstock, and then I'm just going to play around a little bit and figure out where I want to adhere them, and once I get that done, I will pop those up with foam tape as well. And check out all of this dimension. So cute using this Home Sweet Home die. I really hope that you love it. Thank you all so much for joining me, and as always, I will see you next time. Bye!